I decided that what better time to start this than the 4th of July? I hear all kind of sounds, even though it's against the law. I hear all kind of guns and firecrackers and just lots of noise to celebrate the independence of this country. So, going back to why I wanted to have an organization like no other organization, nothing with a lot of laws and rules and meetings and stuff, but just energy, positivity, and creativeness and putting things together to make things work, being a village in motion. So, over 20 years ago, I started Sisters in Positive Progress. Sisters, knowing that life holds many conditions we must deal with. Until we deal with ourselves, we cannot deal with others. We are traveling a road of challenges. Sometimes the potholes of life are very big. We must continue to remember the special blessing that we have in the ability to bring life from our very beings. We are the village makers. We are the mothers of all mankind. We must bring positive energy to our village. Through us, can our village survive the test of time? For we have been given a special gift. The seed of life that our brothers pass on to us is life, the football of life. We are responsible to make the touchdown and win the game. I wrote this over 20 years ago, and I haven't deferred far from it since. Tonight really put something special on my heart because I've been going through papers. And you know, when you've been writing poetry, writing stories, doing little news things and art and everything else, and you are a person who likes to hang on to paper because it has words that you want to hang on to, you get a lot. So I've been getting rid of, but in getting rid of, I've been finding. So it's almost like when you get ready to plant a garden, you got to dig up stuff, get stuff out, and then you find just this right spot, this right dirt, and you put your seeds in, and you're going to let it grow. Well, I'm beginning something. This is the seed of Sisters in Positive Progress, and it all started out with a story. About 30 years ago, I was a part of a church. Actually, it was a little over 30. Time is really passing, but I was a part of a church that was one of the first churches to integrate in Houston because we went into it before integration was legal. And it was due to some unfortunate things that happened in my mother's life that drove her to look for God somewhere else because it just wasn't working in the traditional sense. And so we ended up in more of a Judeo-Christian kind of religion where we kept the holy days, the Sabbath, and things like that. And I read and studied along with her. I was 10, but I was very in tune at 10 because I started out at about 4 or 5 being in tune to some things. And that's why you begin to see so many clouds because I have gone back to my childhood roots. There is life in the clouds. There's energy in the clouds. And I remember them so well as a young child that I began to think, why did I let go of my love for the clouds? And of course, I love the trees, I love the flowers, I love nature. But I don't care where you are. You can peep out. May not see a tree. You're going to see a cloud. And they keep moving, they keep changing, which lets you know that life does not stay the same. So, as I was going through these papers, I ran across little notes, cards, some letters that was written to me in 1996 by some students at Joel Elementary. I bet a lot of them have children now. I would love to see some of them. And some of these letters and notes and cards were just awesome. And being an artist, I learned something about spacing in art. I do a little thing with children when I do art, and I love teaching art because I don't teach art like everybody else teach art. I use the word art because art is life, and it's not about coloring and painting and all that. It's about learning, it's about living. And I love children to learn and live, and they have so much to talk about and so much to share. And so when we're doing a little art, I'll ask them something like, draw your family. And this one group of kids, I said, look, thanks to Dr. Walls, because he literally paid me to go into schools that his children went to so I could teach art, because he wanted them to have that. And then he would also have it at his office when he did home teaching at his special spot that he had set up for his children. A magnificent father who really wanted to make a difference in his children's lives. And I think that he will be pleased in the end. All kids got their own little way of doing things, but he's got to be proud. But anyway, so, I'd say, draw your family. And they'd look at me like, draw my family. I said, but I don't want you to draw faces. I want you to draw circles. If there's 6 people in the family, draw 6 circles. If there are 10, draw 10. You won't believe what I can tell from a family out of circles. The circles would be either in a line. Sometimes the circles would be altered. Some would be 2 over here, 3 over there, 1 over here. And I would say something like, well, why is these 2 circles over here? Oh, those are my father's other children. Or that's my brother, and we don't get along. And I'll never forget this one boy who did his circles. And at the very top of the page was this circle. I'm going, okay, where is this circle coming from? He said, that's my brother. He's in Kuwait. Let me tell you something about art. When people put their paper to pen and they start doodling even, you can look at a doodle and you can almost tell the emotions of a person. And the thing that I have loved about art is that I know that people say that, oh, well, she paints and she doesn't paint faces. And some people think maybe I can't paint faces. Yes, I can. The first little art class that I went to, that I really went to, was a lady from New York named Teresa Craven. No, that was a music teacher. Her name was Risa Carey. And I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and I wanted something to do. And I said, I think, when I was in school, I've always loved art. I like interior decorating. I like painting. And I think I'll go take some art classes. And when I was in college, I was in the process of taking art. But, I left to get married because that's what I really wanted to do in life, is to have a family. And so I was doing this art. And she kind of had figured out, oh, I can make X amount of money off of you at $5 an hour. Because, 40 years ago or more, $5 wasn't bad for just teaching somebody art. Because if they were doing a painting and it took them 10 hours, you could make $50, blah, blah, blah. And she kind of figured it out. But I could get through in like a couple of hours. And so she finally said after my 5th picture, that's all right, you don't have to come. And I put the paint away for 20 years. And the thing about it was, I wasn't inspired to paint then because she had me looking at things and painting what I saw. I can do that. But deep inside of me, there were things that I wanted to paint that I had not seen. And so when I started working in the community, I'd always wanted to do something at a place that they were doing the neighborhood. And it was an art installation and so forth called Project Row House. And I eventually got a chance to get involved with Project Row House and started up a little shop there, which was an experience in itself because it came from a negative experience that brought a positive experience, which brought me a house full of art that I painted in a 4 or 5 month period of going into myself, finding out where was I wrong in the scenario that things didn't go the way that they should go, and then how could I fix that the next time it went around. But that's another story. Getting back to this. So as I'm going through these papers, I'm finding these cards, I'm finding all this stuff that these little kids have written me. And 95% of them were white children. Because see, I had some friends who were in a neighborhood where their kids were going to school, and there were not many kids that looked like them. And that was a problem in the school. 20 years ago, we still have problems now, but 20 years ago in a basically all white neighborhood, we had some issues. And so they asked if I would come out and do storytelling because they knew what kind of storytelling I would do. Well, I do a piece that's called the Goose Sense series. But it all started back in this church when I went to sleep one night and dreamed about a situation that was involved a little black boy who was lost in a sense of what was he going to do because his parents had been hurt in a boating accident and they weren't able to find them, so he had to live with his grandparents and there were no children around, and he would go down by the water and in the forest and he'd play with the baby monkeys. And then one day, his grandparents say, hey, you got to go to school. We can't just let you run around and play. You've got to learn. And going to school, he ran into some problems because he wasn't aware that people will make fun of you. And if they see that it emotionally disturbs you, that's where they get their high. And so they began to tease and taunt him. And the name of this story was The Boy Who Had a Tail. Now, he didn't have a tail, but he did have a tale to tell because guess what? We all have a tale to tell about our lives. And this one happened to have just been evolved around the baby monkeys and the perception they had of him. And so, in doing so, I would, I took this story 3 days after I dreamt it to the first Black History program that I put on at this white church. And I have it on video. And one day I'm going to show y'all the video of me about 30 years ago doing storytelling on stage with all these little white kids and a few black kids around. And it was a boy who had a tail. I had never done a story before publicly, but I had written in this big art book, and I've done many of stories in this particular art book by hand. I had just started writing stories after that. And so I was doing the story, and it was teaching them about you don't let anybody name you, you don't let anybody make you feel bad, you don't let anybody tell you who you are. You have to feel good about yourself. It was a really good self esteem story. And our children needed that in those situations. So, moving forward to Joel Elementary having their issues, and I came there to do storytelling. So, happened by then I had progress because I had came out of that church, start going to places like the Shrine, like in Buff, like other places that had Black Pride and Black History, and then went to Texas Southern and took a course at Tie City. And so I had some information that I wanted to pass, but you can't go into schools doing then telling this stuff. So my thing was, okay, I'll tell it. I'm gonna put it in a story. And that's what I did. I put it in the story. And I would go to libraries all over Houston, especially the one on Scott and a couple of other ones nearby, and I would freely tell my stories to children in different groups. I started going to some of the schools. Um, I love doing it. I met some storytellers. They didn't tell me they got paid for telling stories, and I just thought everybody went around telling stories because they love helping and doing and sharing. And then one day, there was a particular person who was the doctor who says, I want you to do some storytelling, not Dr. Walls, but another one. And she says, at my bookstore, she said, how much would you charge? And I'm going, I'll get back with you. Now, I had no idea because the only thing I'd ever gotten for telling stories was a box of chicken at the library. And I thought that was nice back when I ate chicken. So as I began to put together, well, I'm going to be there and blah, blah, blah. I was a contractor. I did remodel. So I kind of knew how to put some price together, and it didn't even matter that it was close or not because I was doing it for free. So I couldn't lose. This was great. So I did, and they enjoyed it. So when I went to Joel Elementary, because Nana and Baba Goodrich asked me to come out for their son, who's now grown and got a child, they knew that I had this story on racism. I was bold enough to do a story on racism for children. But it had already, it had been tested here and there, but I had never done it at a white school before. So when I did the story, and it was all said and done, the children were elated. I had little white kids coming to me saying, you need to come to my house and talk to my parents. I had little kids say, oh, I want to learn about Black people. It was beautiful because the intent of my story was to bring out the true history, not to blame or shame anyone, but it was also to leave us all knowing that we have to be responsible for what we are gaining off of. If my mother, grandmother, great grandmother, great grandmother did some horrible things and all this money drifted down to me, I didn't do it. But the person that they hurt, great, 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 great grandchild that maybe I'm associated with, or within my community, or in my town or city or country, I am kind of responsible to share some of those earnings or goods or opportunities. And the least thing I could do is be kind and loving, knowing that they were not given a level playing field. So as I took this story in, the kids really appreciated it. And I'm wanting to put these letters together. I would love to find some of these kids. So I'm going to see how I can come out, and maybe I can start putting this out as a little ad as if you attended Joel Elementary in 1995. And at that time, some of the kids, I was using my married name, Miss Hunter, and some of them it was Akua, Fayette. And so I got all these different letters, and some of them will just break your heart, make you happy, and some will make you go, wow, we've come a long ways and a long ways to go. But this 4th of July is my time to start. And I said a little while ago when I was up on the roof, I had some good news going on. Well, something is brewing. And I'm not going to talk about it yet because I wanted to get simmered on the pot a little better. Learn that lesson. You don't put it out there too fast, too soon. But this is the beginning of the story time. I've always wanted to do storytelling on the front porch. Grew up on the front porches of older people because I didn't have any grandparents. My grandmother died. My father's grandmother died at 2. And then my mother's mother died when she was 13. So I had no grandparents. But it's okay. I took me some grandparents. Baby, I was sitting on the porch with old people, talking to them, go to my friend's house, let them go outside and play, and I stay in with their mama. I just enjoyed learning and being a part of information that could help. And so I'm going to do my Goose Sense story, and I'm going to do it on, not tonight, but I might read a few of these little stories because I want to just make this, maybe a 20 or 30 minute deal. But kids writing this much stuff to you, it's like, they were serious about what was going on and they enjoyed it. They truly enjoyed it. Some of them even gave me their address and their phone numbers, told me to call them. Some of them wanted me to write a book with them. They were just wonderful children. And some of the teachers, when I came out, grown folks knew what I was doing. The kids were just elated to know the truth, but grown folks figured out, oh, she's coming in here with the truth, and we didn't know it. So when the teacher says to me, well, it was really good, but we were kind of looking for somebody like a Bill Cosby style, I say, I don't do clown stuff. I don't do acts. I do storytelling. I put a little fun in it. But I'm here to teach because I want our children to learn. Time is precious and we're losing time. So every opportunity, even in fun, we should come out with several things at least. Or one of them, come out with knowledge, come out with positivity, come out with hope, come out with purpose, and come out with self-confidence. And I've never met a child during my time in storytelling and introducing myself to children that I wouldn't stop when I ask their name and they go, no. I say, what did you say? I say, oh, no, baby. Give me that name. Say it strong. Say it loud. Because that's going to determine how people treat you. And sometimes that will determine what they'll try to do to you. How you say your name is important. And I was into the science before I even knew what it was all about. But I knew that I was different. I thought different. I did things differently. And so finally, all these years have gone by. And I was listening to the Achara today, and he was talking about back in, I think it was 1995, when that was a magical time. Oprah, so many people started coming out with It's like the information field was opening up and information was coming out. I was putting I am in children's stories in 1995. And now I'll be able to expand on it because we are so much wiser and we have so much more knowledge. And I am so appreciative of being a part of the biovibrational science team because guess what? It is a learning process and there is truth everywhere. And there is non-truth everywhere. And when you don't know what it is, don't believe it and don't not believe it. Sit on it, listen, feel, get your emotion, get your energy. And when you really want to know something, the universe will open up to you and it will teach you. But first, we've got to know who we are. And the answer to our solving our issues anywhere besides not even just this country is knowing who we are. You are seeing me, but I'm energy. And the funny thing about this is that, I mean, I'm sure some people say, you know what, Akua is always doing pictures now. Because I never thought much about anything on the outside to want to put it out there. And even when I had to go and perform, I mentally told myself, don't worry about all this. Just go out and I took my energy out. And when I took my energy out, I glowed. And I missed out on appreciating my youth because I was more concerned about what was in here, but yet not comfortable what was with on the outside. And to get to the point where you're 72 and you go, whoa, it doesn't matter. I got a message for you. This is all just a package. But what comes out of this package is going to make you like the fact that it's here to bring it to you. And as we were told today, every day is the present, but it's your present. And you don't let nobody open your gift. You don't let nobody tear your gift up. And you appreciate your gift. And sometimes you think your gift isn't what you want. It's not the way you want it or the kind you want. But everything in life have two sides, positive and a negative. Look for the positive. I guarantee you'll find it. And even in the negative, you will find something too. You will find a route to get around, to move over, and to grow from. So I am going to do some of these stories, some of these little cards and things. And another thing I did, I asked them to draw geese. And that was the fun part. Some of those kids were real good. I could have hired them. I mean, they were really good. And I want to publish these. So I definitely need to find out if I can get their permission. If not, I'll just blot names out and do it anyway because I think people need to know that when we say children come here with an innocence of love, they really do. Some of it from way back that they don't remember come forward as other things come forward to them and they're told, oh, that's not the way to act because, you know, these are those kind of people and those are those kind of things. But you could find that innocence in these letters, in these notes, and in these cards. And the thing that I loved about so many of them, they would say, your friend. When they would end their letter, they would say, your friend. And I thought, how sweet. I got friends at Joel Elementary, and I just got here today. So this has been just an introduction to SIP's Storytelling Hour. And I am going to be doing some of my stories, or parts of them, at least once a week to get the feel of what's going on. But I am getting ready. And the time is now. And I want to thank you for those who've stayed with me through this. I figured I'd do 30 minutes. It might be, it's about 25 minutes now, just about. But for the 4th of July, baby, I'm not popping no firecrackers for nobody and doing no sparkles for nobody but me, myself, and I, and those who want to join me in the freedom of learning through storytelling. And I would like for you to share some storytelling. Maybe we get a storytelling group that put a circle of stories together. I've always wanted to do a book with at least 5 women and joined the group one time. Let me tell you, I've been through a lot of experiences. So when people say things about people, I want you to learn there are two sides or more. Don't believe it until you really get to know the whole truth. I remember joining a book club once of women, and we were going to do, a book. Now, my mindset is I got some business structure. So I'm coming in with some stuff that maybe this will work a different way. And generally, I'm always the older person, and I was the older person in this group. And because most of the artists were very young, and that is something they didn't understand about me. I was in my 40s when I started painting. Most of those kids around there at Project Row House was 19, 20, maybe 30, and they were trying to compare my actions to their actions. I have time. I don't smoke. I never smoked. And I didn't have time to do no pot, no drinks, no none of that. I had a family that was in college, and I was coming into the community to make a difference, and not a middle class elitist, and just a person that wanted to make a difference because I have come from little to nothing, and I don't say I've got a lot, but what I've got you can't even count, and it's not about money. My richness and my gold is not in the bank. It's in my heart. It's in my soul. It's in my spirit. And my next, whatever many years the universe had for me, it's coming out. And nobody is going to stop that unless I let them. And I'm not going to, because this is the time. And there are a lot of good women out there and good men who don't even know it because we don't know ourselves. But we've got to learn. It starts within. So the next time you open up to complain or listen to some gossip, and I'm going to tell you a little tidbit that I learned in the last 2 or 3 years. Someone made the statement that I was the kind of person that I didn't let nobody play in my sandbox. Well, what they were really saying was that I opened an art shop. I had my art in it, and I didn't take anybody's art in. What they didn't know was I used my money. It wasn't profit money. It was money that I sacrificed for doing things that I could have done for myself. I decided, since I had some bad experiences with people selling my art and keeping my money and keeping my art, I decided I will sell my own art. And I wouldn't have mind selling art for other people. But I didn't have time to do their bookkeeping and my bookkeeping. I didn't have time to hold space up for their art when I had a specific purpose for my art. See, I never painted for money. That's why I call myself a symbolic artist. I painted because I had a message. And I didn't want to turn down anybody's art because their message didn't match mine. So that's why I decided I would do my own shop. And I had that right. Now, I started out doing a shop at Project Row House with many people. And it ended up with me doing a lot of the work, people not bringing their work in so to be ready to sell. So I didn't have time for that. So yes, I didn't let people play in my sandbox. I built it, and I put the sand in it. And I didn't have to worry about nobody complaining, because if anything went right or wrong, it was on me. And I did not want to put anybody in a bad position because I wasn't ready to deal with having to go through all of that. And so it wasn't about I didn't want to help. And matter of fact, I even did bring one person in because she was doing something that wasn't selling. And I showed her how to make her clay work pop and sell. And she later got with other artists, and they X'd me out of some stuff. And next thing I knew, she was anyway. But that's okay. I've learned a lot in this world. So, but what I have learned, you can't come to me talking about anybody because I know that there are at least two sides. And so we're not going to even do that. We're going to move forward. And I just wanted to say you have had a taste of the beginning of the storytelling hour. And this was just a slight introduction, but I will be doing some storytelling. And I will be inviting some people to do some storytelling if they've got the kind of stories to tell. You know me, it's got to be up, it's got to be positive, it's got to be helpful, and it's got to be about unity because we're all in this together. Well, I don't hear any more firecrackers, no guns going off, and none of that stuff. So it's time for me to say good night. And this was my 4th of July.